Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I'm one of your two hosts, Noor Kyle.
And I'm one of your two hosts, Mushtaq Ali.
Yes.
1, 2.
Hey, we still have a couple people popping in. And yes, we are talking about something that is definitely relevant to our lives right now, and I am sure it is relevant to all of your lives right now. This thing about energy, making sure we have enough energy to do the work. But before we get into that, we do have a couple of announcements. We have been mentioning that we are doing a little bit of figuring out how to upgrade. How would we put this?
We're trying to figure out how to separate you from your money.
Yes, in the most, consent-worthy way possible. So one thing we've come up with recently is a coffee account. And you will be able to, as many of you have been asking us actually for something like this, it's an opportunity to do a one-off donation or a monthly donation. We're thinking of it as like a contribution to help us keep the Nine-Sided Circle going. Because as we've learned over the past couple months, we cannot keep going at the rate we've been going, where we're like just bare minimum in terms of supporting the work that we do with our occasional money-making schemes that are, of course, things that we really are passionate about. But we have to figure out a way to make this sustainable all the time. And so that's one way that we're going to do it. Anything you want to add?
God will like you if you don't.
Yeah, there you go. And you can think of it as a donation. I know one person thought this is a community I want to support. So I kind of think of it as a tithe. Whatever works for you, whatever way you can feel good about that is going to make sense for you and your situation, because we do not want you to.
Yeah, and we're running into things like YouTube has cut their monetization in half in the last couple of months. We've watched it go from usually we make a whole $10 a month off of the ads that they force on us. Now we're only making like $5 a month off of the ads that they're forcing on us. And because we are not a big group, they do not recommend us.
Yeah.
So we're working on ways to get around that without giving YouTube more money. That's what they want, is for us to give them money for the privilege of them making money off of us.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, Mushtaq, but all this is kind of awkward for me as I mature into, the business side of things. So bear with us as we figure out how to get the languaging right to really speak to our values and express what we need in terms of support as well, because we want to be as transparent as possible. So
yeah, and we have a couple of rules about how you give us money. The first one is you should only give us money from your disposable income. This is not one of these things of send us your rent money, send us your Social Security money, because God will bless you if you do that. No, God will think you're an idiot if you do that. So
it will not serve you.
No, it will not serve you. It will not serve us. It will give us bad karma. So only your disposable income. Give up a coffee one day and send us the money. We'll drink the coffee.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has to be appropriate for your circumstances, and it has to feel right to you.
Yeah.
That's what matters to us. Yeah. So without further ado, more on that forthcoming, but we'll have a link in the description you can check out. And you can
we're
do so.
Be building this site up over time. So it would be fun for you to go there and lose your money. It's like Las Vegas. You go, there'll be pictures, bright lights, flashing things. And the next thing you know,
check it out at your convenience.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. This evening we are talking about conserving energy to support ourselves in the work.
Yeah. And this is an important thing because, as I have said innumerable times, and Noor has said at least halfway to innumerable.
I talk about plugging the leaks. I know you've heard me say that before.
Yeah. See, the thing is, if you want to change, your energy must be above a certain threshold. If it isn't, there's not enough juice to actually repattern yourself. And so it behooves anybody in the work to find ways to conserve their energy and to use their energy wisely and correctly. And we're going to be talking about some of the ways to conserve and some of the ways to not be stupid with your energy.
Yeah. So, I mean, so people get a sense of what we're talking about. What might be some examples of what we're calling wasted energy?
One of the biggest wastes of energy comes in what we call wrong use of centers. So we talk about the head center, the heart center, and the moving center, which is the body. So body, mind, emotions, however you want to say it. Each of those has a particular quality of energy. And if you're like most people, one of those centers is going to tend to steal energy from the other centers. So, for example, your emotional center may steal energy from your intellectual center. And it can do that by having you think emotions. So rather than using your thinking for thinking, you're using your thinking to try and feel.
Well, yeah. What would that look like?
That would look like constant self-talk about a particular emotion.
So like ruminating about anxiety, perhaps?
Yes. Exactly.
Lived example, yes.
Or you can have your emotional center steal energy from your body, from your moving center. And that would look like fidgeting. Fidgeting is a way your emotional center is trying to use your movement for what would you call it?
Like remedial regulating.
Yeah, like self-regulating. You're trying to regulate your emotional responses through body movement and that sort of thing.
I mean,
these are small examples.
When you feel like there's no other way to.
Yeah, or pacing.
Pacing, yeah.
Pacing is one that I have constantly fallen victim to. I caught myself during the entire passport debacle pacing back and forth in my motel room.
Yeah, not a whole lot of pacing space.
Not a lot of pacing space, but I managed to find
it at home.
Yeah, you could go all the way down and then through the little hallway into the bathroom, all the way down to the bathroom, back out, hop into the bathtub, hop back out of the bathtub, and then come back out and do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an improvement, though.
It is.
And even more here, we could do laps around this refrigerator area.
Yeah.
So those are a few examples. Yeah. Excellent examples. Do you guys feel like you're getting a grasp for the ways we just generally fritter away energy in a day in these ways that we don't even realize we're doing it? Give us a thumbs up if you're following along with that. Great. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand.
Osama has a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lay it on us, Osama.
Can you please give us another example of the intellectual robbing the feeling?
Okay.
So you, please, thank you.
Well, the one that I offered was You offered the anxiety one. I'm trying to think of another one.
Think of making pictures in your mind's eye over and over again about negative situations that you have experienced or you are afraid you're going to experience. Imagining visually, especially. That would be an example of that.
Okay.
So you make a picture of your girlfriend rejecting you, and you can have words, honey, you're a complete putz, and I'm moving out. I'm running off to join the circus.
So is it like you're playing a scenario?
Yeah, you're playing a scenario in your mind over and over again. And then you're using that energy to stimulate your emotions.
All right. Does that help, Osama?
And that is contrary to sitting in the feeling of that moment when it arises.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So as opposed to it happening in the present, it's like you're caught up in this narrative that's only taking place in that moment within the confines of your own imagination.
Yep.
Got it. All right. And James, I did see your hand up. Did you have a thought or a question?
I thought I was giving a thumbs up, not a hand up. I must have hit the wrong thing. But all this accords with my limited experience, though. Nothing you're saying is surprising.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. We all know at some level how we do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, what can we do to conserve our energy? One thing that we can all do to conserve our energy and to have it used correctly is working the three centers. So doing physical work. And there's a lot of different physical work you can do. You can do movement practices of 100 different sorts that will give you a focus on keeping your moving energy in your moving center. And the emotional and intellectual centers love stealing from the moving center, because you know what's in the moving center? You know what's in the moving center?
Sexual energy?
Yes. I knew you would get that one. Your sexual energy. The moving center is, Gurdjieff says it's built up, and this is all a metaphor. These centers are just a way of talking about something. So they say the moving center has the moving part of the moving center, the instinctual part of the moving center, and the sexual part of the moving center. And all of the centers want that sexual energy because there is usually so much of it, at least when you're younger, and the other centers can feed off of it. What does it look like when you're feeding off of it? Sexual fantasies. Incessant watching of porn does this. I have nothing against porn. Watch all you want, but realize that if you let yourself get caught in the fantasy of that, you're bleeding energy off of your sexual center into your intellectual and emotional center.
And you probably noticed that. You probably noticed how draining it can be.
Yeah.
So something to keep in mind.
Something to keep in mind. Yeah. Now everybody will be shocked. Yes.
Oh no.
We may even get demonetized because we said sex. Yeah.
So it sounds like it starts with the body.
The body is a great place to start.
Yeah. I mean, even as I sit here, I think of one of the ways that my energy is being expended right now is unnecessary tension.
Yes.
So I am doing my best right now to release that, and then energy is, metaphorically speaking, returned to me as a result, and I feel calmer and I feel more present. So it can be as simple as that.
Yeah. Gurdjieff was really big on scanning exercises, taught a bunch of them. And we are going to work on one How about right now?
Okay, let's do it now. Yeah.
Okay, this
Then
is
you'll feel what I'm talking about.
this is a simple exercise. And all you're going to do is you're going to scan your head. But we're going to do it in detail. And you're going to start with your forehead. So you can close your eyes if you want. And I want you to feel your forehead and feel for any tension in your forehead. And if you find any tension in your forehead, see if you can release it. And releasing is like this. You're here, and then you do that. You just let go.
As much as you can. There's some structural holding yourself up you might experience, but we're working on the head right now.
Yeah, though if you completely relax the muscles in your face and head, you will fall over. It's an interesting phenomenon. I love that, doing that to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. Focus on your forehead, find tension, check between your eyebrows, see if there's tension there. Check across your forehead. Now, feel your temples and see if there is tension here. And if you need to, you can put your hands up and feel like this. Yeah, we actually learned this when I first learned it by touching these areas to actually get tactile sensation.
And if it helps, you can do, audible exhales to remind yourself to relax.
Yeah, and it might help to take your glasses off. You're just in the way. And if you wear glasses, feel around your ears like this. Find the tension there. So, forehead, between the eyebrows, in the eyebrows, here along the face. And you can stroke this to see if you can find tension and release it in the jaw, in the neck, and then the top of the head. You got all sorts of muscles up here, and they can get tense, especially because we don't have a lot of consciousness in the tops of our head or the backs of our head. And then finally, where the neck joins the head, feel there for tension and let it go. Now, rub your hands like this. When they feel warm, you want to do this until you get a lot of friction in the palms of your hands. Take this and put it over your eyes and let the heat from your hands soak into your face. And use that as a cue to relax everything. We're kind of doing the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, think no evil, whatever. So like that, and then let it go. This is an exercise that you can do every day that will release physical tension and free up a little bit of energy. And as you've probably all noticed, everybody gets tension in their head, especially in their face. And you want to be able to return your face to a neutral state. A neutral state is one that has no emotion, or if it has an emotion, it has an emotion of calmness. Is calmness an emotion? It could be.
Arguable for the sake of discussion.
I will argue that it's an emotion.
It's a state, right?
It's a rasa, actually. So how did that feel? This is not rhetorical. Tell us what you think. Yes, Osama.
Okay. So I don't know if Nora remembers this. I shared that over the past maybe few months or so, I've been becoming aware of a small tension that is here in between my eyebrows, that sometimes pulsates. And I don't seem to know like how to release it. You see the example that you gave was something like this and doing that. It's not a constant thing. Right now it's not there. I don't feel it. However, earlier when I was meditating, I felt it. Yesterday I felt it. I remember the advice that Noor gave me, which was don't pay attention to it, don't mind it, which is great because at some point I was kind of like focusing on it, which was giving it more attention. Yeah, so that was great. I don't know what to make of it, and it seems like this exercise helped in some kind of way because I don't feel it right now.
Now I can tell you that you scrunch right here. When I'm looking at your face as you're talking, you have a tension line that's squeezing in like this. And that might have something to do with it. Or your third eye is opening and you're going to start seeing auras any minute, which is cool. But likely it is a pattern of tension. And I suggest that when it happens, you put your fingers here and see if you can feel the muscles moving. And if you do, just move slowly outward.
That feels soothing. Yeah, that feels very soothing.
Yeah.
I do the same thing because I have vision issues and it's hard for me to see clearly. So I find that I squint a lot or I like do this a lot. And so I get a lot of tension in here and I get tension headaches as a result. So this is an exercise that is extremely valuable for me, for example.
And it has very positive effects. I've been doing this since I think I was 18 when I learned this.
Dang.
Yeah. And
that's why you look so good.
That's why I don't look all wrinkly. I'm convinced of that. You know, most people my age, they look like a prune. Or they're highly heading towards that pruniness.
Or maybe it's your internal state radiating to your external
That's
form.
Probably part of it, but a major part of it is relaxing muscles. You know why Botox works, right? You have all of these women and men. Men use Botox too. And they get injected with botulism toxin. That's what Botox is, which is a paralytic. And because it paralyzes the muscles cannot hold the chronic tension and the face relaxes and the wrinkles go away. Now, here's the thing, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again now. If you learn to relax the muscles in your face, you can save yourself thousands of dollars on Botox because consciously relaxing your musculature does the same thing for cheaper, and you don't have to poison yourself to do it.
You just got to take time to practice it.
Yeah, it takes work. It's a lot easier to go in and get a bunch of injections. But there always seems something wrong with it. You lose the mobility in your face, which is kind of weird.
Yep, that's why you got to watch these Instagrammer gurus because they look very, placid, and you wonder, is that legit or is that Botox? And you can think about that next time.
Yeah, and with a lot of them, it's either Botox or they're psychopaths.
No.
Because a whole lot of them, the smile does not go higher than the eyes, doesn't go up to the eyes. And Botox will do that to you, but we digress.
Yep. So As James says, this is
Say what,
so
Sheree?
this is Sufi Botox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that. Okay, Sheree, why don't you go next? And then James had something to share.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
James, yes, this is Sufi Botox.
I have a suggestion for Osama and for yourself, Noor, that you use your ring finger. So if you use your ring finger to very lightly draw circles, butterfly wing light, and do circles around your eyes very slowly, and you can feel how it softens all of that tension in orbicularis oculi, which is a circular muscle around the eye.
Thank you for that, Sheree.
It's just really light, and that helps a lot for the frowning thing, the stroking for the forehead. That's really nice to go from the middle to the outside and extend it out to your temporalis muscles, which are just above your ears here. It's a nice place because everybody that overthinks gets tension in there. So that's why you tend to take your fingers and then slide it up into your hair. And if you've got hair, you grab your hair and then you pull it and then let it go. And that feels really good too. So you might not want to mess up your hair right now, Osama. So you might just leave that. You might end up looking like Tintin. But yeah, even pulling up and into your hair, you think, wow, that's like so much tension. But when you squeeze it, so you miss out. You'll have to get someone else to do it to you. But girls who've got hair, it feels so good to do that, just to let that go. And then that circular one for the eyes is really good. But for the jaw, that's where I actually put my fingers on my cheek and just slide it down just to open up on the inside of that cheek.
We were going to address the jaw, so thanks, because that's the movement you want, is this downward movement.
But you have to pin it. If you just do that, it feels like you're pulling your face off, which doesn't feel quite so nice. You have to pin the cheek and put the other hand underneath and then just slowly slide it down. It's not fast because fascia takes at least 20 seconds before it starts remodeling. So you don't want to make wrinkles, you want to actually just reduce tension. So it's a resting as if you're, like a skin on a custard or a pudding. You just want to rest your finger on it and just make a little depression, not break the skin of the custard. That's how soft I'm actually holding my face. So it's not too hard. So if you give that a whirl, because everybody's overthinking at the moment. So you think, wow, this is exactly what I need to do. And then you can do little circles like that. But the soft eye one, that, especially if I'm doing a lot of reading and I notice I hold the tension too, because I'm very myopic. So I think, okay, just those circles, that might be just enough.
Yeah. And then let your jaw relax and let your mouth drop open. You probably don't want to do this while you're riding on a bus or anything, but we spend the day holding our mouth closed.
Yep.
And
sometimes
giving yourself permission to release these muscles and let the jaw hang naturally is a nice sort of thing. All right, James, tell us things.
This just brought to mind, there was a whole DVD series by a guy whose pen name was Christopher Hyatt called Radical Undoing.
Yeah.
Basically self-Reichian exercises.
Yeah.
With a big concentration on the face. I just thought I'd throw that in, see if anyone had run into it before.
First book was Undoing Yourself with Energized Enthusiasm, and then went from there. Interesting fellow.
I was part of his fan club, so to speak.
Yeah. The only reason he ever got on my radar was because he was friends with Bob Wilson, and I think good old RAW was a much more fun person.
Yeah, I never had any contact with the man directly, but about 10 years after his death, there was an online forum devoted to his work. which I did get a lot of value from, but it was kind of all a bit grim to a point that I felt was self-defeating. You bang on about the robot all the time.
Yeah, because old Bob was the opposite of grim.
Yeah, no, Christopher Hyde. Alan Miller. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, not about Robert Anton Wilson.
No. As far as I can tell, Robert Anton Wilson was not grim at all. But
I never hung out with Christopher Hyde. I did hang out with Bob when he was living in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
Grew to Santa Cruz and then living in Berkeley. Yeah.
Yeah,
lived in the same places.
Back in the day. So, did you have anything you wanted to add, James? Because, cool.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just pointing out that he churned out a whole DVD series about this kind of stuff for working the whole body, starting with the face, big emphasis on the face.
We could do that and that'd be great.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe that's the way to the big bucks. All right.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I would do and put it up on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make a note that we should do the body scan series.
Oh, okay. I can make a note of that.
Make a note of that.
Onward.
Because Gurdjieff really liked these. So. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, given that we all carry so much tension these days, it's likely that each of us can find some level of benefit from that exercise.
Yeah.
So,
and you can do that through your entire body. Just, I don't want to take half an hour to do that tonight. But we will work on that because it's so beneficial. And yeah, I think we'll put it up as free content.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one way that we can reclaim our energy that gets frittered away every day by releasing those tensions.
Yes. Another way is exercise.
Oh, no.
Yes. If you do the things that we call exercise, and I don't mean you have to go out and lift weights, though lifting weights is not a bad thing, especially as you get older. Being able to lift weights on a regular basis is great. And there are ways to lift weights that make it fun. You don't have to just work out with Olympic bars and dumbbells and stuff. You can use kettlebells, you can use clubs. Clubs are fun. And I highly recommend them. But making your muscles contract and release against resistance is good for your body.
So that's a way of like kind of charging the battery through building not only strength, but giving yourself an opportunity to doing work in that way can be really both physically, mentally, emotionally clarifying.
Yes.
Because you're exerting yourself and you kind of have to give all your focus to it, ideally. You can make a meditation out of it as well.
So now the next way you build energy in your body is through the 3 foods and the 3 digestions. The first food is physical food. And this is important. Don't eat stupid shit. You'll be sorry. Eat smart. Smart doesn't mean vegan or anything like that. But eat balanced. Eat healthy. Avoid things like excessive alcohol.
Excessive sugar.
Yeah, sugar at all. Avoid sugar. Sugar is evil. Sugar is something you should eat for like 1 month out of the entire year. And it should be fruit and stealing honey from hives that have live bees in them. You don't get as much honey, but
no,
it keeps you on your toes.
That's a workout.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so, there's something to be said about, I don't know, I guess some people would call that eating clean.
Yeah.
Minimally processed.
Yeah. Basically, if you are eating a food that has a commercial, you want to stop.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't eat foods that have commercially. Eat natural foods. And be conscious as you're eating. Don't eat unconsciously. You can eat with friends and eat consciously. You can eat by yourself and eat consciously.
Say more about that. What does that mean? Eating consciously.
That means being present to your food.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means. It's like when we went out for your birthday dinner, right? We were there for the sushi.
Yes.
Yes. The sushi had our entire attention.
Eating it with intention.
Yes.
With attention, with presence. Yeah.
Yeah. Being present to your food. That doesn't mean being grim, right? You can have a good time, especially if you're eating with friends. We were laughing. We were making fun of the flying fish eggs all over your sushi. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's literal food then.
Yeah. So the first food is food. And you want to take impressions of your food, which is to be present to the eating of it. Now, the second nourishment is breath. And you can breathe and eat at the same time. It's allowed. And then the third food is impressions. Impressions are allowing yourself to be present in the moment to what is going on. And these three things feed the three centers. The food feeds the moving center. The breath feeds the heart center, and the impressions feed the head center.
So the impressions, that's like the sensory experience, right?
The sensory, it's being present to the sensory experience, being awake to it.
Processing.
Yeah, being completely awake in the moment of chomping on that steak. And when you do all three of these, you extract more nutrition from your food, and not just physical nutrition. That's our way of talking about it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all metaphor in some sense, but it works. So we're going to continue making the metaphors.
So Frank has his hand up.
Yes, Frank.
Sorry about that. Negotiating that mute button can be difficult.
All good.
I didn't want to get too far away from it. I have two questions. One is going back to wrong use of centers. And I had a question regarding marching in formation and just any type of drill and ceremony activity as opposed to just walking. And I was wondering what aspect of that would be considered just moving center. Is the intellectual center, the concentration on maintaining form, position, posture. I'm just trying to get a sense of how I can define such a differentiation between a moving center and an intellectual center to somebody who doesn't believe in a triune brain system.
That's a really good question. And I don't have an immediate answer. I'm going to have to think on that one. My initial thought is that you have to be careful with things like marching and formation, because what they can produce and often do produce is trance.
Right.
And so you get people who become very susceptible when in trance to suggestion.
Yeah, cadence is certainly an applicable part of drill and ceremony.
Yes.
And the cadence certainly allows itself for a hypnotic effect to help you endure the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes back, I mean, we see the same thing with sea shanties, you know, using those as a form of cadence for, you know, hauling lines and all of that sort of thing, that also kind of painful sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, the thought that comes to me is, given how intentional a person is while doing some kind of marching formation, you know, within a cadence or whatever, I wonder if there's a way that could be used as kind of a challenge to be present, to resist falling asleep, to resist falling into trance.
Yeah, and we know that Gurdjieff did that with his dances.
Yeah.
And certain Sufi exercises do the same thing. I don't think the military marching and cadence are designed to do that, though.
No, but an individual
Yeah.
could use it in that way privately. Yeah.
Yeah, though at this point, anything that we tell you is pretty much conjecture. And we have to say, I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm sure shit gonna find out, because it's a damn good question.
Yeah, we'll chew on it, but I this is what we have to offer just off the top of our heads. So maybe it's helpful, maybe not, but thank you for bringing up such a great question.
I have one other question, if I can make. Regarding the bit of each center that, I don't know if I can explain it in the way that you said it. Maybe it'd be best if I tried to explain it in the way that I understand it. A triune brain with a reptilian and a mammalian and an intellectual brain, that the three portions. The reptilian brain has a logical feature to it, you said, and also a mammalian feature that it mimics the emotional brain and the intellectual brain. Is that
not well?
Sorry, I misunderstood then.
I mean, there's a certain amount of disagreement amongst the wise about how this all works, and I try and keep an open mind. The lizard brain is not terribly sophisticated at higher functions. The lizard brain is really good at keeping your body alive, and you know that when we say moving center lizard brain is a really good word for it. You know, it's the old brain, the thalamus, and all of that kind of good stuff. The mammalian brain is the cortex, and it definitely has an emotional component to it more than anything else. And it is often disconnected from the lizard brain, or working at odds from the lizard brain. And then the neocortex is what we think of as the human brain.
Quote unquote.
Quote unquote, yeah. And it's the slowest of all the brains, interestingly. The slowest functioning brain is the neocortex.
Well, it's got all that processing and like, you know, relativity calculations and all of that stuff.
Yeah, so if you accidentally touch a hot plate, your intellectual brain is going to be looking and going, oh, my fingers are smoking. And the emotional brain is going to look and go, I don't like this. But the lizard brain is going, shit. It will happen faster than your reflexes in a certain sense.
Okay.
Or even your feelings about it.
Yeah.
Your sense of it's just that, stimulus response reaction.
Yeah. And whereas, different people have different response times, but the response time is not lizard brain response time. The response time is emotional and intellectual brain response times. Lizard brain response time is immediate.
So is that the brain, the portion of our control centers that you spoke of for fear when you shared us the rattlesnake and you jumped so many feet?
Yeah, that's all lizard brain stuff. And we need that because it keeps us alive.
Okay, well, very interesting. I don't want to take everybody's time, but thank you.
Don't worry about it. You're so quiet most of the time anyway. We welcome you talking.
So thank you, Frank. Very thoughtful questions.
Yes. Yeah, and the marching and cadence thing is fascinating.
Yeah,
I gotta write that down. I don't want to lose that. So within the 3 centers, each center has its own food. Nancy was waving her hand. What do you say, Nancy?
I was wondering how the probably intellectual brain steals from the moving center.
What do you think the main qualities of the moving center
are? Rapid response to a person's situation.
That's
probably certainty about sensory input.
Yeah. Fight, flight, freeze. Those are all lizard brain. Now, the intellectual center would steal the fight, flight energy by creating in the mind scenarios where one might be attacking somebody or defending themselves from an attack or running away from an attack, and play those in non-real time over and over again. I mean, I know people who spend hours fantasizing about beating the snot out of their boss, for instance. That's stealing from the moving center and stealing from the emotional center to a certain degree.
I think I may be dealing with another pattern, which is uncertainty about what I'm feeling or seeing.
Yeah, that might be emotional center stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And say it's something for us to talk about when we talk. Okay. So stick a pin in that and let us discuss it.
Okay.
Now who else haven't we heard from?
Who haven't we heard from?
Levita. Is Levita around?
Levita should, yeah, there's Levita.
Hey. How's it going, Levita?
I'm hanging in there.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Or answers you do?
I don't really have any answers, because if I did, I would be sitting on a lotus leaf like this. But but yeah, I agree. I mean, it makes sense. And having done the rumination and the pacing, and sometimes both at the same time, and then you sit down. Oh, I'm going to sit down and read a book. No, you're not. Book's going to read you, because you just burn through, all your energy pacing and ruminating. So it explains a lot.
Yeah, I can understand that. So thank you, Levita. That reminds me, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, because we're talking about like reclaiming the energy that we spend on things like rumination, anxiety, whatever. And we've talked about how a really good beginning point is returning to the body. And I can't tell you how true that is as someone who also deals with things like rumination, anxiety, and such. And it's been kind of a recurring theme lately that my ability to get work done when it comes to something like running an in-person retreat, which triggers all of my little discomfort buttons. The only way for me to work through that is to get really, really into my breath and attune to my senses in a very neutral sort of way. So I'm not judging what I'm seeing in the room. I'm just kind of giving it my attention that would otherwise be sucked away into, oh my God, I'm freaking out right now. And being able to watch how well that works, like now I've experienced that in such an acute way. It feels so much easier to do in less stressful situations now. So if you find that you're struggling with that, give yourself some credit and keep working at it because it does help.
So, any more questions? No? Well, then we are going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said pretty much what I wanted to say. So let's switch back over to Brady Bunch mode. There we are, all the happy people.
Yeah, so, you know, before we run away, I mean, what are we putting this energy towards that we're saving?
Towards your work.
Yeah, towards
actual transformation.
Yes. And that is key. That is something that will keep you motivated even when this gets really tough, because it does get really tough. And then you remember that your goal is to increase the time that you spend awake, to mature into what full human adulthood looks like for you. We've talked about that.
And to actually have the energy to repattern habits and such things.
Yep. So that,
which requires overriding stuff in your brain.
Oh yeah.
And that requires energy.
Mm-hmm. So when it gets tough and you're like, why do I bother doing this? Remember those things.
Yeah.
And hang in there.
Just remember, when the going gets tough, Mullah Nasruddin rides out of town on his donkey.
All right.
All right, folks.
We're on Brady Bunch mode.
We'll see you all next week.
Everyone watching on the replay, and we'll see you next week.